So I'll say it again. I'm sorry that I said you were a jag, just a guy who's an average wide receiver they use a first-round pick on that isn't doing anything. I hope today that you actually show up in a way that you haven't showed up in the last couple of years since they drafted you. So if you ever got a problem with Agent 89, I'm sorry for saying that you're an average wide receiver that they eventually will move on. And when teams call me and asking, should they trade for you, I will say no, don't trade for Jerry Jeudy because he's mentally unable to handle constructive criticism from people who watch specifically, can he be a wide receiver? He could be a wide receiver. He's a tier 3. Go back into the studio. I'm done now.
Shedeur Sanders already has enough pressure on him without his own wide receiver, making the situation harder. Every throw is being judged, every rep is being picked apart, and every mistake is being used as another reason to question whether he is ready to lead the Cleveland Browns. But here is the part people need to stop ignoring. Sometimes Shedeur is doing exactly what he is supposed to do, and the play still falls apart because Jerry Jeudy does not finish it. That is what makes this whole situation so frustrating. When a quarterback misses a receiver, fine. Put that on the quarterback. When the timing is off, when the ball sails high, when the read is wrong, Shedeur has to own that. Nobody should protect him from mistakes he actually makes. But when he drops back, sees the field, delivers a clean ball right where it is supposed to go, and that football hits his receiver in a catchable spot, what exactly is Shedeur supposed to do after that? And that is where Jerry Jeudy comes into this story.
Dr. Jerry Jeudy. And what did this dude do? Take a guess. Oh, you guessed it. Vomit all over himself, dropping the ball. I don't know if you're doing this stuff on purpose. I don't know what's going on. But you're a professional, bro. It's time you start acting like it. Take a look at this here, man. This dude is insane. Take a look at this here. Shedeur Sanders going to drop back and deliver an absolute dime to Jerry Jeudy. Deep ball, spiral on it, right there in the breadbasket, and this dude drops it. Right there in the breadbasket, and this dude drops it, man. Like, come on, bro. This dude can't be serious. Come on, man. It's in your hands. You're supposed to be a #1 wide receiver. You can't catch a cold, bro. You got hands like a snake. It's ridiculous watching Jerry Jeudy go out here and drop all these passes over and over and over. It looked like the same thing from last season. This dude just don't get it. He just don't get it. He may never get it. He might not figure it out until it's too damn late. But all I know is when Shedeur Sanders get in the game, I don't want Jerry Jeudy in. Let him run with Deshaun Watson. Let him run with Deshaun Watson and let Jerry Jeudy let Shedeur Sanders have Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston and Isaiah Bond. I don't want nothing to do with no damn.
This is not about asking Jeudy to make some impossible one-handed grab while getting hit by 2 defenders. This is not about throwing him into a bad situation and expecting a miracle. These are the kinds of plays a veteran wide receiver is supposed to finish. These are the exact plays that can change the way a quarterback looks during a competition. One clean, deep connection can completely change a drive, change momentum, and change the conversation around who looks more dangerous running the offense. Instead, the ball hits the ground, and suddenly that entire play disappears. That matters more for Shedeur Sanders than people want to admit. After the preseason game against Chicago, the microscope around Shedeur got even bigger. He showed some good things, but he also had moments that gave his critics something to talk about. That means his margin for error is smaller now. He cannot waste clean opportunities. He cannot afford to have big plays erased when he actually did his part. And he definitely cannot afford for people to look at a drive later and ask where the explosive plays were when some of those plays were already there, waiting to be finished. That is the part that makes this story bigger than one drop. Shedeur Sanders is fighting to prove that he can handle more responsibility in Cleveland. He is trying to show that he can move this offense, push the ball downfield, and give the Browns something they can build around. Jerry Jeudy is supposed to help him do that. He is supposed to be one of the more experienced players on this offense. He is supposed to be the kind of receiver a quarterback can trust when the football leaves his hand. Instead, the conversation keeps coming back to the same uncomfortable question. How many good Shedeur Sanders throws can hit the ground before Browns fans stop calling this random? Because once is a mistake. Twice gets your attention. When it keeps becoming part of the discussion, people start looking at it differently. And that is exactly what is happening now. Jeudy already came into this season with pressure around him. His production dropped last year, and people were already asking whether Cleveland was really getting enough from a player who was supposed to be one of the main weapons in this passing game. Then came the quarterback conversation around him, where fans started questioning where he stood in the Shedeur Sanders versus Deshaun Watson battle. Jeudy pushed back on that narrative and made it clear that choosing the quarterback was not his job. Fair enough. But once that noise already exists, the worst possible thing that can happen is for fans to watch him drop clean balls from Shedeur Sanders. Now every miss gets magnified. Every drop gets replayed. Every time Shedeur puts the ball where it needs to be and Jeudy fails to bring it in, people are going to ask questions whether Jeudy likes it or not. And this is where the pressure starts shifting. For months, almost every conversation around Cleveland has been about whether Shedeur Sanders is ready, whether Shedeur Sanders can win the
Cleveland
job,
needs to start
whether
asking
Shedeur
another
Sanders
question.
is doing enough.
Is Jerry Jeudy
and whether
doing enough to
Shedeur
help the
Sanders
quarterback
can handle
standing behind
NFL
him?
football?
Because Shedeur Sanders can fix his own bad reads. He can fix his own timing. He can learn from his own mistakes. What he cannot do is catch the football for Jerry Jeudy. The problem for Jerry Jeudy is that this is getting harder and harder to dismiss as just one bad rep. Browns fans can forgive a drop. Every receiver in football drops a pass at some point. It happens.
Yeah, the internet, they do what they do, flip a story and make it to something that it ain't. I've been in the league for 7 years, and at least 5 or 6 of the years, it all been a quarterback competition within those years. I think I'm mature enough and wise enough to not answer questions like that. For everyone to believe that I would answer something like that on social media is kind of wild, but you got to understand this what we in, and understand how everybody viewing the quarterback competition in this room. So every little thing is going to try to turn it into that, and which I get, I understand, but like I said, I spoke on it. I said what I truly felt about the situation, and I leave it off from there. If anybody want to believe, that's what they want to believe. I know what's the real. I know what the truth is, and that all that matters.
What was that when you put up 4 fingers? And what was that?
So the truth is, if you could watch the video, you could see it was cut. Then whoever did it scrolled up to make it seem like I was answering that question, which I wasn't. There's 1,000 questions popping up, rolling all at once. I seen some guys saying I was throwing up for 4 PF. I wasn't. Some guy was saying it because my 4 color jersey. But before the video cut, it was me and my daughter, and I showed the video. I showed my daughter, and somebody was asking like how old she is, and I threw up the 4 because she's 4 years old. But everybody gonna make it seem like I should have been thinking this, saying this instead of throwing up the 4, knowing everybody gonna make it seem.
But when the same issue keeps showing up during the exact stretch where Cleveland is trying to figure out what this offense can become, people are going to start asking tougher questions. And those questions are starting to land directly on Jeudy. Because this is supposed to be one of Cleveland's most dependable receivers. This is not some young player fighting just to make the roster. Jeudy has been in the league long enough to know what these moments mean. When a quarterback puts the football in a catchable spot, especially on a deep shot that could flip the field, the expectation is simple. Finish the play. That is what makes these drops stand out. Shedeur Sanders is already fighting for every bit of momentum he can get. When he pushes the ball downfield and gives his receiver a real chance to make a play, that should become something Cleveland can build on. Instead, there have been moments where the throw looks good. The opportunity is right there, and the result still ends with the football on the ground. At some point, that stops looking like bad luck. It starts looking like a problem. And that is where Jeudy has to be careful, because fans remember patterns. They remember the deep ball that should have been completed. They remember the next clean opportunity that gets wasted. They remember seeing Shedeur make the right read and still walk back to the huddle without the big gain that should have been there. That kind of thing adds up fast during a quarterback competition. Think about how differently people would talk about Shedeur Sanders if even a couple more of those clean throws had turned into big catches. Suddenly, instead of debating whether the offense is producing enough explosive plays, people are talking about how Sanders keeps attacking downfield. Instead of asking whether he is doing enough, they are talking about the chemistry he is building with Cleveland's top receivers. One catch can change an entire conversation. One drop can erase it. That is why Jeudy's mistakes matter beyond his own stat line. The quarterback is the one who usually gets attached to the result. When the offense moves, the quarterback gets credit. When the offense stalls, the quarterback gets questioned. That is just how this league works. But that also means a receiver can make a quarterback look better or worse, depending on whether he finishes the opportunities he gets. And right now, Shedeur cannot afford to have good plays disappear. Jeudy also has his own expectations to deal with. Cleveland does not need him to be average. They need him to be reliable. They need a receiver who can create separation, win important downs, and give whichever quarterback is on the field confidence that the football is going to be secured when it arrives. That is especially important with Shedeur. A young quarterback fighting for a larger role needs somebody he can trust. He needs to know that when he takes a chance downfield and places the ball where it should be, his receiver is going to reward that decision. If that trust starts disappearing, everything changes. The quarterback hesitates for half a second longer. Maybe he checks the ball down instead of attacking. Maybe he moves off a read that he normally likes. Maybe the offense becomes more conservative because the big plays are not being completed. That is how one small issue can start becoming a bigger offensive problem. And this is why the conversation around Jeudy is heating up. It is not because Browns fans suddenly forgot that he can make plays. It is because the standard should be higher for someone in his position. When Shedeur misses, people are not giving him a free pass.
Possible explanation for this.
Sure, I'd like to hear it.
It's just that. It is they don't want to start Deshaun at home a week from now, and that starting him on the road is going to be less of a distraction for him because there will be a mixed reaction if Deshaun were to start his first game in 2 years almost at home.
It might be that. It might also just be the idea that they started Deshaun with the ones to begin with because of the veteran part of this equation, and they're just staying true to that. Neither one has separated themselves in any sort of way, and so this is the easy way to decide it. Deshaun started the practices off as the one out of the gate, and he'll just continue with the preseason games, and then we go from there.
If I'm a Shedeur fan, I like this because Shedeur not only gets the start against the Bills, he also gets the joint practice against the Bills as well.
That could be huge. Yeah, if that's how that goes. I will be interested to see. I know you say that now as if that's he hasn't said that. Yeah, I know. I'd be interested to see what happens if they end up making Deshaun the starter in the joint practices and then Shedeur is the starter for the actual preseason game.
Just be very weak.
Well, there's some people that would argue then that Shedeur would get way less of a chance if that's the outcome because the joint practices and the only joint practice they have is that Thursday against the Bills. If that's all Shedeur gets, or that's all that we're talking about, and Deshaun gets that instead of Shedeur, that's a real advantage to Deshaun. People really weigh these.
His mistakes are being replayed, discussed, and judged immediately. So why should Jeudy be treated any differently? If Cleveland wants a fair look at Shedeur Sanders, then everybody around him has to be evaluated with the same energy. The offensive line has to protect, the receivers have to separate, and when the football arrives, somebody has to catch it. That sounds simple because it is simple. This is where the Jerry Jeudy situation becomes a much bigger problem for Shedeur Sanders because quarterbacks do not get judged only on whether the football left their hand correctly. They get judged on what happened after that throw. Did the drive move? Did the offense create an explosive play? Did they get into scoring position? Did the scoreboard change? Those are the things people remember. And that is exactly why a dropped pass can hurt Shedeur more than people realize. If Sanders throws a deep ball 35 or 40 yards downfield and Jeudy catches it, suddenly everybody sees a quarterback attacking the defense. The offense gets a huge chunk of yards. Maybe the Browns move into scoring range. Maybe that drive ends with points. Maybe the coaches look at that rep and say, this is exactly what we want to see. But if that same football hits Jeudy in a catchable spot and falls to the ground, almost all of that disappears. No big gain, no momentum, no explosive play in the final numbers. And later, when somebody looks back and asks why Shedeur did not create more offense, that drop pass can become invisible. That is the part people need to understand. A quarterback can make the right decision and still get punished by the result. Shedeur Sanders already has every part of his game under the microscope. People are watching his footwork, his timing, his reads, how quickly he gets the ball out, how he handles pressure, and how he reacts after mistakes. That is fair. He is competing for one of the most important jobs on the football team. But if Cleveland wants that evaluation to actually mean something, they have to separate the quarterback's mistake from the receiver's mistake. Those are not the same thing. If Shedeur throws the ball behind Jeudy, put it on Shedeur. If he misses him high, put it on Shedeur. If he does not see an open receiver, put it on Shedeur. But if he reads the defense correctly, gives Jeudy a catchable ball, and the receiver simply does not finish the play, then that cannot become another reason to say Sanders was not productive enough. That would be judging the wrong player for the wrong problem. And this matters even more now because the competition is getting tighter. After the Chicago game, Shedeur has things he needs to clean up. Nobody should pretend otherwise. He had positive moments, but he also had a turnover. And that is exactly the type of mistake coaches are going to study closely. He knows that. The Browns know that. Everybody watching this competition knows that. So when Shedeur does come back and delivers the football exactly where it needs to go, those plays become even more important. He needs those completions. He needs those explosive gains. He needs the offense to finish the job. Because every clean play helps erase some of the noise from the bad ones. That is why Jerry Jeudy cannot keep wasting those opportunities. This is not about protecting Shedeur from criticism. In fact, it is the opposite. If people are going to judge him hard, then judge him correctly. Do not blame the quarterback for a pass that should have been caught. Do not call the offense ineffective when a big play was sitting right there and the receiver let it hit the ground. And do not pretend that these drops have no impact on the way this competition looks from the outside. They absolutely do. Imagine two quarterbacks competing side by side. One throws a perfect deep ball and it gets caught for 40 yards.
Back to that idea that you said that they're kind of in a dead heat here. If that were to continue through, I think it's August 23rd, that's kind of been a spot people have earmarked that makes sense to kind of name a starter. Who do you think the tie goes to?
I would probably say the tie goes to the veteran Deshaun Watson. I've said this, and I know that people have come after me for saying it, but organizationally, if you start with Deshaun, and I'm not trying to go negative here, but let's just say this plays out where it doesn't go well, then you can turn it over to Shedeur and just say, hey, the rest of the season is yours. Take us home. And then he plays as long as he stays healthy, and you really get a larger evaluation of him than just the 7 games that you had last year where he wasn't exactly set up.
The other throws the same quality ball and his receiver drops it. On paper, one quarterback suddenly looks more productive. But was he actually better on that rep? That is the problem. And with Shedeur Sanders, every single difference gets magnified. One incomplete pass becomes a talking point. One failed drive becomes proof that he is not ready. One interception becomes another headline. So if people are going to react that strongly when he makes a mistake, they also need to be honest when somebody else costs him a successful play. That is where the frustration around Jerry Jeudy is coming from. Fans are not asking Jeudy to make Shedeur look better than he actually is. They are asking him not to make Shedeur look worse than he actually is. And there is a huge difference between those two things. Shedeur still has to earn everything. He still has to make the right reads, handle pressure, protect the football, and prove that he can consistently run this Browns offense. But once that ball leaves his hand and hits a receiver where it should, his job on that play is basically done. Jerry Jeudy made this situation even more complicated before these drops ever became the main story. That is what people have to remember. The pressure around Jeudy did not begin with one missed catch from Shedeur Sanders. It started earlier, when his name got dragged into the Browns quarterback conversation and fans began questioning where he really stood in the battle between Shedeur and Deshaun Watson. Jeudy pushed back on that conversation. He made it clear that choosing Cleveland's starting quarterback was not his decision, and that is fair. A wide receiver should not be the one deciding who starts. That belongs to the coaching staff. But once your name gets attached to that kind of controversy, everything you do afterward gets watched differently. And that is exactly what is happening now. Every time Shedeur Sanders throws Jeudy a clean football and Jeudy does not finish the play, fans are going to connect those dots whether Jeudy wants them to or not. That does not mean the connection is automatically fair. It does not mean Jeudy is intentionally trying to hurt Shedeur. There is no proof of that, and it would be wrong to pretend there is. But optics matter in the NFL, especially when a quarterback competition already has this much attention around it. Jeudy could not have picked a worse time to start having these moments become part of the conversation. Because Shedeur is not some established 10-year veteran who can shrug off a drop-deep ball and know nobody will care. Shedeur is trying to build his case in real time. Every strong rep matters. Every big completion matters. Every drive matters. So when Jeudy fails to finish a play that could have helped Sanders, people are naturally going to look back at all the earlier noise and start asking uncomfortable questions. That is what makes this story so dangerous for Jeudy. He does not even have to say anything now. The drops speak loudly enough on their own. Fans see Shedeur step up, deliver a catchable ball downfield, and then watch it hit the ground. They remember the earlier quarterback controversy. They remember all the debate around who Jeudy supposedly preferred. Then they watch another missed opportunity and wonder what is really going on. Again, that does not make the worst theory true. but it absolutely keeps the controversy alive. And once that happens, the only way Jeudy can shut it down is by catching the football. That is the simplest part of this entire situation. If Jeudy wants everybody to stop talking about his role in the Shedeur conversation, then he has the easiest answer possible. Finish the plays, make the catch, move the chains, celebrate with the quarterback. Give fans something positive to talk about instead of another replay where the ball ends up on the ground. Because right now, every drop gives the story more oxygen. And there is another layer to this that makes things even more uncomfortable for Cleveland. Jeudy is supposed to be one of the veterans helping stabilize this offense. He has been around long enough to understand pressure. He knows how quickly narratives can grow. He knows one bad clip can travel everywhere before practice even ends. That should make him one of the players least likely to create more noise. Instead, he is becoming one of the biggest talking points around Shedeur. That is not where Cleveland wants its top receiver to be. The Browns need Jeudy to make life easier for whoever wins this quarterback job. They need him running clean routes, creating separation, and becoming a reliable target when the offense needs a big play. They do not need another storyline that forces people to wonder whether their receiver and quarterback are truly on the same page. And this is where Shedeur Sanders gets dragged into a controversy he did not even create. Shedeur cannot control what people said about Jeudy online. He cannot control how fans interpreted that earlier quarterback situation. He cannot control what Jeudy says publicly. All Shedeur can control is where he puts the football, and when he puts it in a good spot, the receiver has to do the rest. That is why every Jeudy drop becomes so frustrating. It creates noise around Shedeur without Shedeur actually doing anything wrong on the play. And when you are trying to win a starting job, that kind of noise can become expensive fast. This is not about attacking Jerry Jeudy personally. It is about accountability. Shedeur gets held accountable for every mistake he makes. If his read is late, people say it. If his throw is off, people say it. If he turns the ball over, everybody sees it. Jeudy should face the same standard. If the ball is catchable and he drops it, that is on Jeudy. And after everything that has already surrounded his name in this quarterback competition, those mistakes are going to hit harder than normal. The Chicago game changed the pressure around Shedeur Sanders. And that is exactly why Jerry Jeudy's drops matter even more now. Before that game, Shedeur could still live inside the training camp conversation, where every good throw could build momentum and every mistake could be treated as part of the process. But once preseason football starts and those reps begin showing up on an actual game field, the standard changes fast. Now people are not just talking about flashes. They are talking about results. Shedeur had moments against Chicago where you could clearly see why so many Browns fans are still excited about him. He showed the willingness to push the football. He made some throws that moved the offense, and there were stretches where he looked comfortable operating in a real game setting. But it was not perfect, and nobody should pretend it was. There were missed opportunities, there was an interception, and there were enough uneven moments to keep the quarterback conversation wide open. That means the next stage becomes even more important. Because when you are trying to answer questions after an imperfect game, every positive play matters twice as much. Every clean, deep ball matters. Every third down conversion matters. Every drive that gets extended matters. And that is exactly why Shedeur cannot afford to have Jerry Jeudy wasting the good ones. If Shedeur makes a bad throw, he has to live with it. That comes with the position. Quarterbacks get the credit when things work, and they get the heat when things fall apart. But if he comes back from Chicago, cleans up his own mistakes, makes the right read, puts the football on the receiver, and then watches the pass hit the ground, that is a completely different problem. Shedeur already has enough to fix himself. He should not have to fix Jerry Jeudy too. And that is where this starts becoming a serious offensive issue instead of just another training camp storyline. Think about what Shedeur needs right now. He needs rhythm. He needs confidence. He needs completions that build one good play into another. He needs the offense to stay on the field long enough for coaches to see what he looks like when a drive actually develops. One drop can ruin all of that. A deep completion can change field position instantly. It can force a defense to back off. It can open the middle of the field. It can give the quarterback confidence to attack again. But when that ball is dropped, none of those things happen. Now it is second down. Now the defense feels like it survived. Now the quarterback has to create another play just to get back what should have already been there. That is why people need to stop looking at these drops like they exist in a vacuum. They affect the entire evaluation. And with Shedeur, that evaluation is already under more pressure than almost anybody else on this Browns offense. Every good moment gets debated. Every bad moment gets amplified. Every number gets compared. So when Jeudy takes a clean completion away from him, it does not just cost Shedeur yards. It costs him evidence. Evidence that he saw the field correctly. Evidence that he can attack downfield. Evidence that he can create explosive offense. Evidence that he can answer after a mistake. That is what makes this so frustrating for Browns fans who are trying to figure out what Shedeur really is. How can you judge the full picture if some of his best throws never become completed plays? That is not an excuse for Shedeur. It is context. And context matters. Chicago gave his critics something to talk about. Fine, now Shedeur has to respond. That is football. He has to come back sharper, protect the ball better, and make the kind of plays that force Cleveland to keep giving him opportunities. But if he does that, the players around him have to meet him halfway, especially Jerry Jeudy. Jeudy is supposed to be the veteran in this equation. He is supposed to be the dependable target. He is supposed to be the guy who makes a young quarterback's life easier, not the guy who turns a perfect throw into another incomplete pass. That is the standard. And after Chicago, there is even less room for anything below it. Shedeur Sanders does not need anybody covering for his mistakes. He needs somebody finishing his good plays. That is the difference. If he misses, criticize him. If he turns the ball over, criticize him. If he makes the wrong read, criticize him. But when he puts the football exactly where it needs to be, somebody has to finish the job. At the end of the day, this is not about giving Shedeur Sanders excuses. If he makes a bad read, call it out. If he misses a throw, call it out. If he turns the football over, he has to own that too. That is part of being a quarterback in the NFL. And Shedeur knows exactly how much pressure comes with that position, but that standard has to work both ways. If Shedeur Sanders puts the football where it is supposed to go, Jerry Jeudy has to catch it. It really is that simple. Cleveland cannot spend every day breaking down every tiny detail of Shedeur's game while acting like a drop-deep ball from a veteran receiver does not matter. It matters because every one of those plays can change a drive, change momentum, and change the way this entire quarterback competition looks. And after Chicago, those plays matter even more. Shedeur already has his own things to clean up. He already has people waiting to question every mistake. He does not need extra problems created around him when he actually makes the right play. If Cleveland really wants to find out exactly what Shedeur Sanders can become in this offense, then they need the players around him to do their jobs too, especially Jerry Jeudy. Because right now, everybody keeps asking whether Shedeur Sanders is doing enough for Cleveland. Maybe it is time to ask whether Jerry Jeudy is doing enough for Shedeur Sanders. That is the conversation Browns fans should be having, because if these drops continue, this is not going to stay a small training camp story. People are going to keep watching. They are going to keep comparing every rep. And they are going to keep asking why one of Cleveland's most important receivers is leaving big plays on the field when Shedeur is putting the football in position to be caught. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think Browns fans are being too hard on Jerry Jeudy? Or has this already become a real problem for Shedeur Sanders and this offense? And if you are Cleveland, do you keep feeding Jeudy these opportunities? Or do you start giving more of those meaningful reps to receivers who are consistently finishing the play? Drop your answer in the comments because I want to see where Browns fans stand on this one. And if you want more coverage on Shedeur Sanders, Jerry Jeudy, this Browns quarterback situation, and everything that continues to develop around Cleveland, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because this story is not slowing down. And if Jerry Jeudy keeps leaving Shedeur Sanders' best throws on the ground, the pressure is only going to get louder.